Welcome friends to Physics in 20 minutes. Last three videos we were talking about motion on a straight line, but in real life the motion is not always on a straight line. For example, this mountainous road, not only the x and y coordinate change, but the z coordinates also change as the height changes. Here is another example where a bird takes a flight on a curved path. So in this video, we are going to talk about motion in 2 or 3 dimensions. Position and velocity, acceleration, and components of acceleration. For prerequisites, you can see video number 13 and 14. We are already familiar with use of x, y and z axis to represent position of a point in 3-dimensional space. We use I, j, k unit vectors to represent these directions. So if a point has a coordinate x, y and z, position vector r can be written as xi cap plus yj cap plus zk cap. The magnitude of r is given by root of rx square plus ry square plus rz square. How do we describe the displacement vector in 3 dimensions? So let us consider a path on which a particle is moving. Let's say at some time t, the particle is at point P1, which has coordinates x1, y1 and z1. So its position vector can be drawn from the origin to the point, and it may be called as r1. Let's say that the point P1 reaches to point P2 in time delta t. So its new position vector can be drawn again from the origin to the position P2, which has coordinates x2, y2 and z2. So the two position vectors can be written as vector r1 is equal to x1 I cap plus y1 j cap plus z1 k cap. Vector r2 is written as x2 I cap plus y2 j cap plus z2 k cap. The displacement vector is drawn from P1 to P2 and it can be represented by vector delta r. You can see that the three vectors, vector r1, vector r2 and vector delta r, form three sides of a triangle, and if you use the triangle law of vector addition, then vector r2 is equal to vector r1 plus vector delta r. Therefore, vector delta r or the displacement vector is given by r2 minus r1. If you substitute the values from the above, then vector delta r is equal to x2 minus x1 I cap plus y2 minus y1 j cap plus z2 minus z1 k cap. What will be the velocity vector in 3 dimensions? So once you get the displacement vector, the average velocity is nothing but the displacement upon time. Therefore, the vector V average is vector delta R upon delta T. The three components of the average velocity would be given by V average X is x2 minus x1 upon delta T, V average Y will be y2 minus y1 upon delta T, and V average Z is equal to z2 minus z1 upon delta T. Since velocity is a vector quantity, what will be the direction of velocity? If you look at the formula of average velocity, the direction of average velocity will depend only on the direction of vector delta r, as time is a scalar quantity. Therefore, velocity vector will have the same direction as that of the displacement vector. What about the instantaneous velocity? So in earlier videos, we have learned that in order to find the instantaneous velocity, we have to take the limit of time delta t to 0. Once you do that, then the point P2 will approach very close to point P1 and the vector delta r will almost become tangential to the path. Since velocity vector has the same direction as that of the displacement vector delta r, the instantaneous velocity will also becomes tangential to the curved path at any instant. For instantaneous velocity, delta t must tend to 0, so we can write vector v instantaneous or simply vector v as limit of delta t tends to 0, vector delta r upon delta t. But from the derivative video, we have seen that this is nothing but derivative of r with respect to time. Therefore, v can be written as dr by dt. The magnitude of the velocity vector at any instant is the speed v of the particle at that instant, while the direction of the velocity vector is given by the direction of the displacement vector dr, which is tangential to the path. So at every point along the path, the instantaneous velocity vector is tangent to the path at that point. Just like displacement, velocity will also have three components. So x component of velocity would be dx by dt, y component is dy by dt, and z component is dz by dt, where dx, dy and dz are the x, y and z components of displacement. The velocity vector can also be written as dx by dt I cap plus dy by dt j cap plus dz by dt k cap. The magnitude of the instantaneous velocity is written as v is equal to root of vx square plus vy square plus vz square. What will happen if the velocity is confined to two dimensions only? Obviously, the situation gets a bit simplified. So, the components of instantaneous velocity will exist only in x and y direction, let's say, and along z direction it will be 0. So, if the path is confined to x and y plane, then we have x component of velocity and we will have y component of velocity. We can complete the rectangle to get the velocity vector v at that position. Velocity vector will be given by dx by dt I cap plus dy by dt j cap plus 0. The magnitude and direction of instantaneous velocity in this case will be v is equal to root of vx square plus vy square, and the direction is given in terms of alpha, which is the angle made with the positive x-axis. Tan alpha is vy, side opposite to alpha, upon vx, side adjacent to alpha. Therefore, alpha can be written as tan inverse vy by vx. So let's check an exercise to understand the concepts so far we have learnt. A bird has xy coordinates 10.1 meter, 3.4 meter at time t1 is equal to 0 and coordinates 14.3 meter and minus 0.5 meter at time t2, which is equal to 2.5 second. For this time interval, find A, its displacement in vector form and its magnitude, B, the component of average velocity, and C, the magnitude and direction of the average velocity. So if you want to solve the problem on your own, please proceed. After solving, come back and check the solution. Here goes the solution. The first point x1 y1 is 10.1 meter and 3.4 meter. x2 y2 is 13.3 meter and minus 0.5 meter. Therefore, displacement vector delta r is x2 minus x1 I cap plus y2 minus y1 j cap. This, after substituting the values, we get as 4.2 I cap minus 3.9 j cap. The magnitude of the displacement delta r is root of 4.2 square plus minus 3.9 square, which after solving will give you 1.6 meter. The components of velocity, x component of velocity is x2 minus x1 upon delta t, which is 1.7 meter per second. Y component of velocity, after substituting the values, you get as minus 1.56 meter per second. Therefore, the average velocity in this time interval is 2.3 meter per second. Angle that the average velocity vector will make with the positive x-axis is minus 42.6 degrees. Let's take another example to understand things further. Position of a rabbit with respect to time is given by vector r is equal to 5t I cap plus 2.5 t square j cap meter. Find its velocity magnitude at 3 seconds. At this point, you may proceed to solve the problem on your own. Come back and check the solution. Here goes the solution. The vector r is 5t I cap plus 2.5 t square j cap meter. The instantaneous velocity is the derivative of position vector. So you can take the derivative of the above equation. Once you take the derivative, you get vector v as 5 I cap plus 5 t j cap. You can substitute the value of t as 3 seconds. You get vector v at t is equal to 3 seconds as 5 I cap plus 15 j cap. Therefore, the magnitude of the velocity is given by root of 5 square plus 15 square, which after solving will give you 15.8 meter per second. How do we assess the acceleration in 3 dimensions? Just like displacement and velocity, even acceleration exists in 3-dimensional motion. How do we assess it? We have learned that acceleration is rate of change of velocity. We can see what is average acceleration. If v1 is velocity at time t1, v2 is velocity at time t2, which is after an interval delta t from t1. Therefore, the average acceleration vector can be written as vector v2 minus vector v1 upon t2 minus t1, which is vector delta v upon delta t. The instantaneous acceleration can be obtained by taking the limit of delta t to 0, but this is derivative of velocity with respect to time. Therefore, vector A is equal to vector dv by dt. Acceleration in general can have 3 components, each along x-axis, y-axis and z-axis. What about direction of acceleration? So you can easily see from the equations, time is a scalar quantity. Therefore, direction of vector A is same as direction of vector dv or vector delta v. How do we determine acceleration if the particle is moving on a curved path? Let's take a simplest of all the cases, that is the particle moving with a constant speed. Consider a curved path on which the particle is moving. Let's say at any instant its velocity vector is v1. Since it's moving on a curved path, the velocity vector will change its direction after some time interval. Therefore, you will get a different velocity vector which will be v2. Both of these velocity vector will have same length because the magnitude of the velocity remains unchanged as the motion is with constant speed. What will be the change in velocity? The change in velocity can be obtained by applying the triangle law of vector addition. We can translate the two vectors from their own position and form a triangle. The third side of the triangle would be given as the change in velocity vector, that is vector delta v. Let angle between v1 and v2 be theta. Since v1 and v2 are equal in length, this is an isosceles triangle. Therefore, the other two angles will be equal. Let those angles be alpha. Now, as the time interval delta t between the v1 and v2 tends to 0, the two vectors will approach very close to each other, almost getting parallel to each other. Therefore, the angle between them will tend to 0. As delta t tends to 0, theta tends to 0. As theta tends to 0, vector delta v will tend to become perpendicular to both the vectors v1 and v2. Therefore, alpha will tend to 90 degrees. Since the acceleration vector has the same direction as that of the vector delta v, it will also point perpendicular to the velocity vector. Therefore, the angle between the velocity vector and the acceleration vector will be 90 degrees. What will happen if on the curved path speed of the particle increases? So let's see once again. We have the curved path, velocity at some instant is vector v1. At some other instant, the velocity vector is v2. This time the velocity vector v2 magnitude or the length is larger than that of v1. Why? Because the speed is increasing. What will be the change in velocity vector? We can again obtain that by translating the two vectors and applying the triangle law. The third side is given by change in velocity vector or delta v. Since the acceleration vector will be parallel to delta v vector, therefore in this case the angle between the acceleration vector and the velocity vector will be less than 90 degrees. What happens if the speed of the particle is decreasing on the curved path? So let's see, we have our curved path as usual. At some instant velocity is v1, at some other instant velocity is v2. The magnitude of v2 this time is less than v1 because the speed is decreasing. We can determine the change in the velocity vector as usual by translating the two vectors and applying the triangle law. The third side will give me the change in the velocity vector delta v. As the acceleration has the same direction as that of the change in velocity vector, it will be parallel to delta v, and the angle between the acceleration vector and the velocity vector will be more than 90 degrees in this case. So we summarize the results quickly on one page. Case 1 was constant speed. In this case, the acceleration vector is perpendicular to the velocity vector, that is along the normal at point P. Case 2, in decreasing speed, if the speed is decreasing, then the acceleration vector will form an angle which is greater than 90 degree with the velocity vector. Case 3, when the speed is increasing, the acceleration vector will form an angle which is less than 90 degree with the velocity vector. We have already seen the three components of acceleration vector, that is x component, y component and z component. However, if the motion is on a curved path, then there is one more way to take the components of the acceleration vector. Let's see what is that. Let's take the path of the particle. Let's take a point P. Let's draw our normal at P and tangent at P. We have already learned that the acceleration vector will form some angle with respect to tangent at point P. Let's have an acceleration vector in an arbitrary direction. Now this acceleration vector can have two components, one along the tangent. This component can be called as a parallel, that is parallel or tangential component. This component will point along the velocity vector v at that point. The other component, which is drawn along the normal at P, can be called as a perpendicular. It is perpendicular or radial component. So the acceleration vector can be divided into two components, a parallel and a perpendicular. The magnitude of the acceleration can be given by root of a parallel square plus a perpendicular square. How do we interpret these two components in a real world scenario? What are the functions of these two components? Let's see them one by one. First, starting with parallel or tangential component of acceleration. So a parallel, as we have seen, is in the same direction as that of the v. So we draw a velocity vector v1. A parallel is acting in the same direction as that of v1. Now we know that since there is acceleration, the velocity will change. The change in the velocity vector delta v will point in the same direction as that of a parallel. As a result, velocity vector v2 will be vector v1 plus delta v. Therefore, the magnitude of the velocity or the speed will increase in this case. What happens if a parallel is opposite to v in direction? Let's say v1 pointing as usual in the same direction, but a parallel, it is still parallel to v but pointing in opposite direction. Therefore, change in velocity this time will be in the opposite direction to v1. Therefore, vector v2 will reduce in length. Therefore, the magnitude of the speed will decrease. So what is the function of A parallel? You can see in one case A parallel increases the speed, in the other case A parallel decreases the speed. We can conclude that A parallel changes the magnitude of the velocity vector. What about the perpendicular or radial component of acceleration? What does it do? So let's see. Our velocity vector v1 as usual. Now it is the perpendicular component of A, so it will be drawn perpendicular to v1. Therefore, the change in the velocity vector delta v will also be perpendicular to vector v1 because it should be in the same direction of as that of acceleration. You can complete the triangle by drawing the third side as velocity vector v2. By using triangle law, you can see that it is v1 plus delta v. So you can see that what happens here is the velocity vector v1 has changed the direction to v2 by an angle theta. So what A perpendicular has done? So one can easily see that it has changed the direction of the velocity vector. So we can conclude that A perpendicular changes the direction of velocity. So from the last two cases we have seen that whenever there is a change in the magnitude of the velocity, A parallel has to exist. Wherever there is a change in the direction of velocity, A perpendicular has to exist. Let's take an example to understand the concept that we have just learnt. Observe the motion of a swing or a pendulum. Analyze its acceleration at different positions. So here is a pendulum which is oscillating. Since the motion of the pendulum is on the curved path, its direction of velocity is changing continuously. We have just discussed that as the direction of velocity changes continuously, it has to have a perpendicular component of acceleration. So A perpendicular will exist. Now as the pendulum comes down from its topmost position, its speed goes on increasing. Since its speed goes on increasing, the parallel component of acceleration has to exist. Therefore, the net acceleration would be given by the vector sum of A parallel and A perpendicular as shown in the diagram. What happens as the pendulum moves in the other direction, going upward? So, since still it is on a curved path, A perpendicular still exists. However, this time the speed of the pendulum goes on decreasing. Therefore, A parallel has to work in a direction which is opposite to the direction of velocity. Therefore, the net acceleration again can be obtained as a vector sum of A perpendicular and A parallel. What will happen if the pendulum reaches to its extreme position? So at the extreme end, pendulum comes to rest momentarily and it's no longer changing its direction. Since its direction is not changing, A perpendicular will turn out to be 0. However, simultaneously, its velocity reverses its direction. Therefore, it should have a huge tangential component of acceleration. In fact, that tangential component of acceleration is maximum at the extreme end. What happens when the pendulum is at the center? When the pendulum is at the center, it hits a maximum of velocity. Since velocity is maximum, its direction changes rapidly. Therefore, it will have a huge perpendicular component of acceleration. In fact, it's maximum at center, while its parallel component is 0 momentarily. Here are some of the review questions. Please go through them. They will help us to understand the concepts in this video and they will help us to understand the forthcoming videos as well. Here is an activity problem. Please try to solve it. Here is the answers to the activity problem. Thank you.